it's the way to do it. I'm going to take 3 more questions. The lady here, the lady back there, and the gentleman in the green shirt.
My name is Irina. I'm also a professor at this public university, CUNY. My question to you, how do you believe that your Bulgarian-ness would make you the first Madam Secretary and the most efficient Secretary General of the United Nations?
Could you repeat
how your Bulgarian-ness got the Bulgarian?
You should say it in a comprehensible language.
Yes. Please stand up because we can't see you.
Good night. First, thank you so much for sharing this. My name is Bokova and I work for International Plan for Algebra. My question is related with the UN International Decade for African Descent People. We are talking about gender equality, and I would like to ask you, what do you do to face the multiple inequalities that different women all over the world face? And I mean race and gender inequality, and also class.
And then there's
My name is Georgi Klisurski. I'm also from Bulgaria, and I currently live in New York and work in an economic consulting firm. Please tell us why you will be the best Secretary General of the UN up to this point.
I'm going to, Irina, add just 2 questions we got from Twitter. They're fairly simple, but I thought maybe we add in a little bit of social media at this point. So one is from Gally Chef Perry, who asks how you plan to increase youth involvement within the UN for intergenerational participation. And the other question is from Adi Lopez, who asks what your position on security of the LGBT community around the world is.
Bulgarians. I'm very happy that as I understand, many compatriots here in the room. And I think Bulgaria has many. I mean, I don't want to praise too much. Everybody's proud of her or his own country, but I think we bring something very different. We are one of the oldest countries in Europe. We have a very ancient culture and tradition, and also we bring some values of tolerance. We are, of course, very famous with the fact that during the Second World War, we saved the Bulgarian Jews from deportation. It was a unique example of standing against an evil and standing against something. And it was, I would say, everybody who stood up, intellectuals, the Bulgarian Orthodox Church, Parliament adopted. It was really, I mean, looking now from a contemporary point of view, looking back, it was an extraordinarily courageous act to do this in 43. It was just in the midst of the Second World War, and the trains were there already on the rails, and everybody stood up against it. I think it's a very good lesson for all of us, even today, even for Bulgarians, we are Bulgarians today, when we unfortunately see rising xenophobia and intolerance. I think we Bulgarians should look at our own history once again with these new eyes and get a lesson of humanity. And I think we not only should be proud of it, but should look at it with contemporary eyes. When we see refugees and others that are the suffering that we have in the world. So this is, I think, one of those. And of course, preserving our own culture, the resilience that Bulgarians has, is also a good lesson for all of us. The other question about the decade for African descent, I can speak a lot about it because UNESCO has one of the most extraordinary programs which started before me. It is not my initiative, but I have pushed very strongly and developed some of them. UNESCO is the initiator of general histories of Africa. UNESCO started general histories of different other parts of the world, but general history of Africa is one of the most fascinating projects. Because in the last volume of the general history of Africa is about the diaspora, the African diaspora. And what we are engaging now, and I'm pushing very strongly also this, is about translating all this into textbooks. Because Africans should not, and African diaspora also, be it in Brazil or in the United States or in Peru or some of the Latin or the Caribbeans, they were studying the history of their colonizers, but not of their own history. It was hidden. So we think that putting all this, translating into textbooks is very important. And this is what we are currently doing. We have, and I push very strongly this scientific committee working on this. I think we are giving back their own history to people of African descent, because it is not only for Africans. And also, your question is very interesting because you linked gender and this history. And it comes out of, because I have been talking to many of these professors and scholars who are from this scientific committee. And we had one of the most fascinating projects, by the way, supported by Bulgaria financially, of creating an online platform about the role of women in African history. And we launched it, and we, because of this very innovative also way of tackling this, we even received the first award of a sister agency, ITU, last year, when they started giving awards for innovation and using new technologies and linking it to some value system. So we're very proud that UNESCO received, for this particular project, received their first award. I think on that basis, we want to develop more understanding and knowledge about the role of women in all this process. Of course, it does not exhaust, I guess, everything that you think about. I think looking, as you said, as gender and race is something that is sometimes neglected, because we speak in general terms about, racism, but as long as UNESCO is very much involved in anti-racist activities in all different, I cannot enumerate everything we're doing, but let me just give another example. We have a network of cities against racism. And through this lens also of urban environment and racism, we're trying to be a little bit more specific on youth, on violence, on women, in order to see what can be done in order to link racism and all these separate groups. So part of my thoughts of, I know that many other things can be said, but part of my thoughts in response to this question. And then, of course, the youth, of course, we all know that the world is young. Africa is 60% for young people are under the age of 30. You go around the world and you see young generation. What they want is education, skills, opportunities for social integration. We're very much looking into all different settings. So it's natural for us. We are in education, youth engagement. I think indeed that we have to have a very different look at. We often say, "Oh, youth is for tomorrow." I think youth is for today, and this is what we have to do, particularly with jobs, with youth, with the civic engagement. We have launched a very different concept within goal number 4 on education, one of the targets of this goal number 4, if you look carefully, it's about education for global citizenship. And I think this is where we are looking at youth, at what kind of education, of quality, what kind of values young people get out of the education system of schooling. I think this is extremely important when we speak about youth. And this is precisely responding to the needs of youth when we speak about education for global citizenship. Now, the security of LGBT, let me say that UNESCO also is probably maybe unique or one of the few in the UN system. I'm not very knowledgeable about the others that started I would say a concrete project and discussions about bullying in schools. We did that, we started this 2 years ago, I think, or 3 years ago in Brazil. We are now developing a whole program for Latin America. We want to move also in other places because we do believe that having a safe school environment and bullying in schools is a huge problem. And how to tackle this problem of, so to say, eliminate bullying, how we train teachers, how we create an enabling environment is something very important. And we will be organizing a conference jointly with the Netherlands, with ministers of education in May on anti-bullying in schools at UNESCO. We will make this conference at UNESCO, where we already have 20 ministers of education, but we hope by that time this group is enlarged because it's an international conference, a global conference, and for the first time we organize such a meeting. I think it's something very important. We respond to something which really is an obstacle to many young kids to get the right schooling, and this is a very different approach that we are taking.
Thank you. I'm going to take 5 questions in this last round. The last one will be with Jane. The lady here, the gentleman in the back there, the lady here, and the lady here. So the first one here.
Hi, my name is Irina. I'm a student from Keighley, City of New York. My question to you is, being a Secretary General, what strategies or policies would you propose in order to combat Islamophobia?
My name is Saad Khuda. I'm a UNA member and I work in the private sector. I'm also from the state of Palestine and commend the General Assembly for accepting the state of Palestine as an UNESCO member. My question to Your Excellency is, how do you truly view the role of Secretary General? I mean, do you see it as being an administrator to the member states? You did it more in terms of a true leadership position? And for speaking your opinion about the issues, and how would you see this role in the first term compared to the second term, where you don't face re-election? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Emily Spratt. I'm at Princeton University and I'm an art historian. It's really an honor to be in your presence here today. Thank you. My question is about confronting this new world with new technologies. And I was wondering if you could speak a little bit how UNESCO can better take advantage of new technologies to preserve the world's heritage that is in such peril today. I'm thinking about the use of technologies such as photogrammetry by computer scientists to reconstruct sites, with the implementation of AI for the analysis of art, and the ability to access information freely about the monuments that UNESCO preserves as World Heritage monuments and sites. What are you doing with your online platform to make this accessible, and how are these new technologies being implemented in this digital world of World Heritage Management? Thank you.
There's a lady here. Yeah.
My name is Zhen Dai Yang. I work for Central Emergency Response Fund, the largest trust fund managed by the UN Secretariat with $450 million a year from 125 donors. My question is the other side of the question number 2 we had just now. Any regret, big or small, in your career? Thank you. It's true privilege to be here today. It's so inspiring to hear your remarks. Thank you.
There was one question there.
Thank you very much. I'm Irina, the former Deputy Executive Director of UNICEF, and I had the pleasure of working with you. And last year I was on the Secretary General High-Level Panel on Peace Operations, and we reviewed all peace operations and submitted our report. I hope, Madam Bokova, that you read our report, where we asked for 4 shifts in all peace operations, and one of them is really prevention. And my question, what are the first steps that you will take with the Security Council to prevent conflict rather than intervening after the fact? And most importantly, the role of all UN agencies, because we know that UN agencies work in silos. What are the steps that you will take to make all UN agencies work together to prevent conflict? Thank you.
Thank you. The last question I'm giving to the chair of our campaign, Jean Krasno, and then Irina, if you can wrap up answering this.
All right, thank you very much. Well, I do a lot of research and follow UN peacekeeping. And we know now that we have about 120,000 UN peacekeepers around the world. If you add up all the rotations and ins and outs, we've had over 1 million peacekeeping troops that have been deployed around the world into very difficult positions. And yet, not all peacekeepers act in proper behavior. They should be holding up all the human rights agreements that we have and humanitarian standards. But we do know that there are reports of sexual abuse that have been done by peacekeepers, which is not tolerable because they're supposed to be there helping people and not doing that. And then the other responsibility also of the UN is what had happened in Haiti, where cholera was spread by UN peacekeepers. So what, in your view, might be a process that the UN could put into place that holds the perpetrators of these abuses accountable? Because right now it isn't clear how the UN can hold them accountable.
Thank you. Irina, if you can take a stab at doing a minute and answer.
I think the most serious questions came at the last, what Jean also said. Let me just maybe start from the end, because I think indeed this is an extremely important question about peacekeeping and some of the, I would say, as you said, Jean, and not all of them abide by the standards, and all these appalling acts of sexual violence with children, and more is coming. I think the Security Council just adopted a resolution, particularly into this, with proposing a very concrete, I would say, kind of a roadmap and the way forward. Definitely, there should be a better, I would say, understanding on behalf of all member states who provide these peacekeepers. There should be training. There should be, I would say, aligning around certain values. There should be better monitoring. I would say planning and everything that is there. And at the end of the day, countries that provide these troops, and I know in the resolution respective resolution of the Security Council even is provided for those countries whose troops do not comply with these standards to be pulled back from their duty stations. So there are many, I don't enumerate everything that is in this draft, in this resolution adopted, which is very relevant, but we have to, I think, it has to be put in practice also. I think there might be a much more concrete ideas in terms of what kind of training should be there, both at the national level and otherwise. We know that probably it is not sufficient right now because of the pressure of time. The troops may be more diversified and others coming, so it is really an important work. The most important is that I guess the Security Council is very much alerted nowadays after everything that happened, and it will take a much stronger action. And what you said, of course, perpetrators, the accountability, impunity should not be, I think, allowed in this particular case. Coming then at the back about strategies for Islamophobia. Well, I think the issues of Islamophobia, stigmatizing any group or religion is not only dangerous, it is just morally not right. What I have been trying to push and promote also within UNESCO, I think one of the best ways of fighting Islamophobia is better understand what Islam is and what Islam stands for. And we have, within this series of histories, 2 years ago I have launched a new volume of History of Islam, which was about foundations of Islam. And this was prepared by a panel of prominent scholars of Islam. And around this we try to encourage a lot more of debates, of understanding around it, because I think this is one of the best ways. And then I believe the UNESCO's work in protecting heritage, the world heritage, is the best way also of dialogue among cultures. Sometimes we forget that the sites on the World Heritage List and this convention is not just to protect physically the bricks and stones, as we say. It's about all the values that they bring. With the Shalimar Gardens in Lahore, I'm looking at Shazia. I know how passionate she is, and she has been pushing us to protect and to confront the government of Pakistan in order to do it. I think this is the right way of civic engagement. Being about, the Red Fort in Delhi, where we have inside the beautiful mosque, marble mosque, and also we have Buddhist temples, be it a nice cathedral or church somewhere or a synagogue. I mean, this is really the true dialogue among cultures. And why it is? Because all of them are bearers of outstanding universal value. So when mausoleums in Timbuktu are destroyed, we all suffer. This is our common humanity that I mentioned at the beginning, because we consider them to be part of our common heritage. This is the meaning. And when we speak about Islamophobia, this is the same feeling. We should suffer when a mosque is destroyed or where somewhere when somebody is attacked, because I believe that nowadays extremists, we speak about extremists, they don't discriminate, they target everybody. The first victims, of course, of Boko Haram are these girls who are Muslim girls, or they attacked Malala. And I remember when I was speaking with Malala, she invited me to the Oslo ceremony, when I was very happy because both Malala and Kailash Satyarthi are good friends, and they both invited me. And when we were speaking, and I remember her interview before she was attacked. She gave an interview on BBC when the journalist asked her, "What are you going to tell the Taliban if the Taliban come now and if you confront, what are you going to tell them?" And she said, I will tell them that I'm a good Muslim, and that I will hold the Quran in my hands, and I will tell them that nowhere in the Quran it is written that girls cannot go to school. And I'm a Muslim, and I will confront them with the arguments from the Quran. I think this is the best way to fight Islamophobia. The role of the Secretary General, whether administrator or I know this debate about his secretary or a general, and then what his role, and frankly, her role. Great, thank you, Shazi. But this is a stereotype. Subconscious stereotypes, you know, it's terrible. We cannot get up. By the way, when I was elected at UNESCO, in English there is no distinction between Director General. It may be woman and man. There was a big debate in French. And of course, I consulted them, the ambassador of France, who was a woman. I said, tell me where I should be directrice or directeur général. In Canada, they put director, they say directeur avec E at the end, to distance the feminine and masculine. And definitely we say directrice. We just want to make a difference. We have to say that everything is different. It's a new era. But in English it's no, and this is where my confusion comes. I apologize once again for that. I should not do it, but I apologize for that. But, and this is a good point, when you take, because I have the feeling now that when there is a lot of talk about possibility of a woman taking this job, expectations are on the rise. I felt it. I felt it when I was elected at UNESCO. Everybody was saying, oh, you're the first woman Director General. Oh, expectations are so high. Now you will do miracles. And I said, please, treat me as a man. I'm for equality. You should not put over expectations just because I am a woman. You just have to treat me with the same, I would say, criteria and the same expectations. But just joke aside, I really believe that the Secretary General, and we know from history, of course, with the current Secretary General and from his predecessors, first and foremost, I think it's a huge moral authority in the world of speaking about certain important values, deeds, initiatives. The current Secretary General has launched 14 initiatives. So we were participating in the Global Education First initiative. He launched Mother and Child. He launched many. I think this is the mobilizing force of a leader, and I think this is important. Well, first or second, I think every term is only one. Because if you don't perform, you're not elected anymore. So whether we speak now, or do we just set one or another, I think every term is only one. You applied for one term. I applied at one term and I was re-elected in competition for the second term. So you just have to prove. The question about the digital, and it's a very interesting question, and I think it's a long, we may speak a lot about it. Not least because I was just a week ago at Yale. I visited their laboratory of preservation, digital preservation of heritage. I gave a speech, and with Professor Stefan Simon, we spoke a lot about, they do a lot of heritage preservation through digitalization, and recently there was Palmyra in London, was digital 3D, was by a team of Oxford University, where we work also together. I think it gives an enormous opportunity for protection and preservation of heritage, but I would say enormous opportunity of preservation and protection mostly of documentary heritage, of digitalization of documents, like what we do once again going back to Timbuktu, the manuscripts that are there, but not only. We're working in the Islamic Museum in Cairo also, which I visited very recently, of digitalization of manuscripts there. First and foremost, of course, we have to protect the physical heritage. And this is our first and foremost work. The rest, of course, is important, but I think it gives more visibility to the physical work, other work that we are doing. It gives more accessibility of putting all these online platforms. It's a great opportunity also for education, for teaching, for intercultural dialogue, for mutual understanding. It gives access to, incredible access to everybody, and we have to use this. But this does not solve the problem with the physical protection. So we have to combine both. Definitely, new technologies give us an incredible opportunity for preservation, as I said. And by the way, we launched in 2009 a very interesting, and you may go online and see it with the Library of Congress, the World Digital Library, where we have more than 120 museums in the world. It is not about books, it is more about combining museums in 7 languages, the 6 official UN languages, plus the Portuguese, where you can go online and see visit museums, one of the best treasures in the world. And we continue to feed this World Digital Library with the new objects and elements of that. So I stop here, and then the role of the UN agencies working in silos. Well, indeed, this is a problem, and there are many initiatives and all this discussion now about the SDGs, the way that we have to do differently. SDGs are very different than the MDGs. I don't want to repeat all the arguments about it. Just the way member states will ask us to evaluate, to work together on the SDGs will make us also work closer. We have done a lot of good stuff. We have a lot of positive work together that we have to step in, but we just have to accelerate because we cannot continue like that. It's more than obvious. How the ECOSOC and the high-level political forum will come, I think one of the most important push towards us doing this will be the QCPR, the quadrennial review of the development work being done by the General Assembly, which will be adopted. The next General Assembly will be key to see how we integrate our work. And of course, I think member states should look at the governance. One of the impediments is the governance. We have different governance in the agencies, different governments in funds and programs, and unless we and member states look at the governance of the UN system, it will be very difficult for us to pull together our efforts. And we know we can work better with one funds. There should be a sectoral approach on the country level with the SDGs, be it in education, be it in water, be it in this and that. So it will help us immensely move forward with this. But no way we can continue like we work now if we want really to achieve results with the SDGs. It's just a very different. We just shift, as we say. We need a shift. We shift in the way we work and we do things. I come to the regrets. I said I'm not going to apologize. Because it's really, if we look at women, so we should not apologize. One of the other issues I participated in a very interesting debate was about can women kind of accept failure. There was in Davos a very interesting debate about it, and they say, oh, women cannot do because they just are the first difficulty they confront, they are discouraged, and men can have failures in life and go again and then fail and go on, and we women are discouraged. And everybody said we women should learn how to fail and then to go on and to continue and to achieve results. So no regrets, I'm not apologizing.
Thank you very much, Irina. This was wonderful. I think we have understood not only your career, but also you as a person. One of the things I just want to leave the audience with is that the actual challenge of decision on who will be Secretary General, this decision will be made by the 15 countries that are on the Security Council. all 15 of them, the heads of government, are men. All 15 foreign ministers are men. And 14 of the 15 ambassadors are men. So this is a major challenge for the 4 women who are going to try and persuade them that this time, the idea, the time, you asked what is the idea for the time has come. Well, it's time for a woman. That's the idea of 2016. So thank you very much. And now I just give the floor to Jean just for closure.
Well, again, thank you all so much for coming, and I think you can all see how it is to get to know Irina tonight and how strong she is, to get rid of that myth that you have to ask, well, of course, if it's a woman, will she be strong? No, we've got to get rid of that, and with no apologies, correct? And so we need to continue to raise this pressure by civil society. Most of us in the room are civil society, because the member states who are going to vote, they actually need us. There's a friends group of 56 countries now that support a woman being elected as Secretary General, but they tell us all the time, we need you to keep the pressure on so that we can say that we must listen to the people. We really have to hear the people and respond. We have to listen to the people. So we have to keep our voices up so they can hear our message. And so, but to be able to continue to do that, our campaign is going to need a little help. And that's where I ask for you to consider donating even a very small amount to our campaign so that we can keep this going. We've been highlighting a few of the women, and you can see how important that is to get to know Irina, to get to know the women, and to see how strong they really are is very important for the whole cause. So again, thank you so much, and I'd like you to consider helping us to do this, continue this work, because we still have several months ahead. Thank you.